Dear Spine community, I welcome you to our podcast series. Spine is the first global search engine focused on alternative healing, spirituality, and consciousness. Spine connects providers with seekers, and in this podcast, we introduce you to the people of the network, their stories, and their insights. I wish that Spine brings you a lot of inspiration in your life and perhaps also opens up many new paths for you. In this spirit, enjoy listening. Yours, Sylvia Lifefaith. Hello, everyone, my dear Spine community. Today, I am particularly thrilled to introduce the wonderful Jacqueline Le Saunier, who has, over time, become a very close and cherished friend of mine, and who also shares so many significant parallels with my own personal story, which means we genuinely have an incredible amount of topics that I am absolutely certain we will be able to discuss and exchange ideas on very thoroughly. And so today, I really want to take this opportunity to introduce her properly to all of you. Her ambitions, her life, her very essence, her impact, but most importantly, what truly inspires her and what has ultimately made her into the remarkable woman she is today. Hello, dear Jacqueline.
Hello, my dear. Thank you very, very much for this invitation. And I'm absolutely thrilled about our conversation.
I feel the same way. It's time that we bring you a little bit closer to the people who are joining Spine in ever increasing numbers. We are all growing together more and more worldwide. And I'm really curious to hear what you'd like to share with our community about your life, because you've had a very diverse experience. You're also someone who works in the media, sometimes more, sometimes less, and you've undergone quite a transformation. The world of media, that is to say the red carpet events, the glossy magazine covers, the motion pictures, and all these sorts of things, are perceived by some individuals as something truly and incredibly fulfilling. You can certainly tell me and all of us, what initially drew you into this particular world, and what then prompted you to move in a completely different direction. Please go ahead and begin.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, I always wanted that. It was somehow clear to me right from the very beginning. Ever since I was a little child, I've always said I want to somehow make a real difference in the world. My mother recently reminded me of it. She said, do you remember that saying you always had? Yes, I want to make a difference in the world. And that was such a motivation for me back then, because my mother is an actress, my uncle is an actor, and I somehow grew up in that world. Well, pause. I was already touring quite early with my mom. And it just seemed like the obvious thing to do, because I always thought, well, on stage, people are watching you, or on TV, many people are watching you there too, and you can really make a difference. So for me, it was the most natural thing somehow, because, well, I also had talent. I really enjoyed all those stories, that I then decided to pursue this media path. I'd say the theater path, or rather it was the most obvious choice. For many, looking back now, it already sounds like, oh, wow, yes, she did something quite special. But for me, it was somehow so very natural that I would do that too. And I'd already done it. When I was a child, I was already acting, and as a teenager, I was also involved in a TV series and things like that. And that at first, I really, really enjoyed that. I truly blossomed in it. It's simply my potential and also my talent. So, I very quickly, also found success in that entire scene. And so, I was then accepted into one of the, I'd say, most renowned acting schools in the German-speaking world in Berlin. Back then, there were like thousands of people, over 1,000 auditioned, and only 20 were chosen. And then it was clear to me, okay, I'll take this path first. And the interesting thing was that even then, during that particular training back in the day, when things suddenly became so very serious, when everything was brought into such a rigid structure, really into such a restrictive confinement, before that, it was simply like this. I just did it. I truly enjoyed it. And it was completely my natural inherent potential. And suddenly it was brought into a structure, and also into, well, a certain kind of, let's just call it a specific type of, I would almost call it a form of prostitution in a way, where I noticed I suddenly had to prove something. I had to prove myself. I had to be something. And I also had to do it exactly as it was dictated to me. And I already lost myself back then during this training. I always had this joy, this spirit, and this light, like I want to make a difference. But during this training, when it became so serious, I lost myself. I truly lost myself then. Well, and that then also, reflected itself in me developing an eating disorder and completely cutting myself off from my body and ultimately, in a certain sense, my soul. So ultimately, this potential that I actually possessed and the joy I felt, which I truly wished to share with the world, yes, it was constrained and it's just occurring to me now. So intuitively, I'm simply conveying an intuitive message right now that this is precisely the issue that actually takes place within schools or the entire school system. So I just wanted to mention that, but it just came to me like that. Right. And then for me, it was clear, but somehow it still felt like it was meant to be. That was my path. And I really wanted to continue it. So I also completed my degree and but then it would have been the usual way. Yes, at the very end, there's always this big audition process where people from all sorts of different theaters come, like the artistic directors, and then you somehow get selected. And I was actually offered an engagement at a rather large theater back then. But back then I said, no, I want to go to New York. New York is my place. I want to go to New York. I want to perform on Broadway or off Broadway. That's my true calling. And that's when the joy somehow returned after that institution was over. It came back. And that I turned down that offer back then. Everyone was like, are you crazy? And I said, no, I want New York. And then I somehow scraped together every last bit of my savings. And then I went to New York. And there I had a truly incredible time where I finally rediscovered that sense of joy again. I completely broke free from it all. It was also a really, really intense period. I mean, obviously, this whole notion of just immediately playing on Broadway and all that, you can completely forget about that dream once you actually manage to get there. However, I managed to scrape by doing all sorts of different odd jobs. And eventually, I even landed a small role off Broadway and performed on stage there. I don't want to go into detail right now because I had something that, no, let's just leave that. But what I actually wanted to say is I simply back then, I just continued living this dream. And it happened back then. And that is one of my most important stories ultimately for what I'm doing now, even today. So back then in America, as you know, you need a residence visa. So you need this work permit. I could only perform there at the time because it was a kind of German theater. Yes, English, German speaking. And they, so to speak, hired me from Germany. But then naturally, the situation was that I'd always leave after 3 months and then I'd return. And then, of course, the discussion revolved around, okay, if you truly wish to remain there for an extended time, you'll require this specific visa. And what was exciting was I was there and I ended up meeting an agent. And this agent back then told me they were currently searching for an actress for a Hollywood production, but she had to speak German. Specifically someone who speaks German and has a German accent. And at that point, I simply still had a German accent, even when speaking English. And he then said that he definitely sees potential in me and he would do absolutely everything now to ensure I get this work visa. Following that, I got myself a lawyer and everything else. I organized, and ultimately this whole procedure for it, everything was already well underway. Yes. So I had recommendations from all the things that I had played in Germany, all sorts of things. So everything that was possible, I managed to scrape together there. And then came the final step, which was the submission of everything and the signature. And I had to make sure that at the time of the visa submission, you're not allowed to be in America, but you must be in Germany. And I said back then that so I went to Germany, yes, and was there and then waited for the agent to give his signature so that it could then be submitted there because I had everything. And I had just arrived in Germany at the airport. And then 2 days later, I received a phone call informing me that this agent had unexpectedly passed away. What that means is all my plans of going to America and somehow really making a life for myself there or whatever it was, well, I don't even know if that would have truly worked out, but all my plans were completely shattered, literally overnight. And I was there in Berlin. I remember when I received that phone call and I just thought to myself, everything was already completely finished. I had also invested a lot of money for the lawyer and for all sorts of other things. And we had spent so many months working on this work visa. And then from one second to the next, all of these plans were completely destroyed. And then I just said, okay, there I was. I couldn't go to America anymore. And I even still had a suitcase there. I was always going back and forth. And that only works for so long. You can't do that too often. And then I stood there and I just really said to the universe, okay, great. Now I'm standing here. All my plans are gone. What am I supposed to do? And then I said, if you want me to stay here in Germany, then I want to. And that was always a dream for me. I want to be at this German theater. And at that time, it was the Berliner Ensemble. That was my dream theater where I always wanted to perform. I would like to secure a commitment there. And I need that arranged within the next 2 weeks if you want me to stay. And you won't believe this, but it was then, just 3 days later, suddenly, completely out of nowhere, and I hadn't done a single thing in between. I had sent my application to them about half a year earlier. You see, the Berliner Ensemble gave me a call. And they said, yes, they had a part for the next Donja Rosita. That's what the play was called back then. And if I didn't want to come for an audition next week. And right from the start, it really shook me. And then I thought, okay, I'll do the audition. It's not like it's a done deal whether I'll get the part or anything, but I still went to the audition a week later. I ended up getting this role and it became clear to me, okay, it really shouldn't be America now, but that I should continue to stay in Germany. In hindsight, I'm very grateful for that. During this time, and that's when, this rupture really came into all that joy I had for acting, this wonderful theater, which I had always envisioned for myself, where I always longed to perform once I was actually there inside. Now, I don't want to speak ill of anyone here or criticize them unfairly, but it was the very first time while I was still caught up in my euphoria that I truly, truly understood what it genuinely means in a particular sense to be taken advantage of, to be exploited in that kind of way. Yes. And where I had already lost that right at the start back in drama school, it became so clear to me again then that I actually wasn't truly. So my big dream came true, but during that dream, yes, while I was living in this dream, the one I truly believed was my dream, yes, I had to painfully realize that it wasn't actually what I wanted, that I didn't experience that euphoria, that desire to bring something new into the world, and now I'm bringing it full circle, truly getting to experience it. Or that I can truly bring this out into the world, that I can genuinely inspire people rather than just being an executing tool for, let's say, for neuroses or for some directors or, artistic directors. And that was one of those moments for me where I realized, no, this isn't it. It's still a part of me, but in this world, I just can't imagine it anymore. And for me, there was such immense pain because this dream, yes, and then it even comes true. And then within that dream, suddenly to feel this very thing, that it's not it after all. And, I'm getting so emotional again right now because I feel that it's often like this. You imagine something and then you have it, but then you experience such extreme pain from it. Yes. And
Pain is, in the final analysis, a disillusionment, isn't it?
Yes, I completely agree. It really is. Yeah.
But what plan did fate have in store? Pause.
Looking back, what would you say was still good about this realization or about the school you specifically attended? I mean, all of that is still a part of you, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm incredibly grateful for this experience because ultimately, what I'm doing now, well, that's also how I ended up launching my own. I launched my own YouTube channel where I was able to speak, where I was able to share my story, but not what was dictated to me in the diminishing of my very soul, but rather what I truly feel, what I genuinely sense deep inside, and with that I can truly bring about change in other people, you see. So I am truly grateful for this entire process. Yes, because for all these different things, I can't even begin to express it. I honestly believe I wouldn't be standing at this very point where I am today had I not gone through this particular experience. And also, I really don't know how things would have unfolded. For instance, in America, specifically in New York, if that hadn't happened, I would have probably gotten bogged down somewhere. And well, I have no idea. So looking back now, well, fundamentally, I'm a person, I really must tell you, Sylvia, I am, despite everything, truly grateful for all these painful, yes, in this specific case, very painful experiences in my life. Yes, of course, not at the exact moment they happened, but now I am profoundly and totally grateful. I am truly, truly grateful for absolutely everything. And that's really all I can say about it. And I no longer hold on to anything so tightly because I realize that everything helps me move forward in some way.
I can totally understand that. I can totally understand that. That is, I always say that's the obligation. Now comes the freestyle. That means that was the preparation, and fate, the cosmos, has a plan one way or another, and we are the instrument of this plan. Um, After you had experienced all of that and gone through such immense pain, where did you still find the inspiration to then do what you did, to know, okay, I'll shift my focus to this path or that path? This is exactly what I resonate with because I can speak from my own personal experience. For me personally, if I hadn't gone through that near-death experience, I honestly don't know where I would have ended up. And I truly needed that as an initial spark, a catalyst that clearly told me, this is your ultimate goal. This is precisely where you should direct all your focus and energy. Did you perhaps experience any similar inspirations or insights in that regard?
Yes. Well, how should I put it? I ultimately experienced this moment again through a lot of pain. So it was then a little bit later. I then became pregnant. Yes. And in this pregnancy, at the very beginning, when I found out, it was then that so it was quite a shock for me at the time. It was a truly, truly big shock for me. I just need to take a quick sip of water. It was a significant shock for me back then. And so I was back then in my mid-20s, I got pregnant, and then I didn't stop right away, but I still somehow always felt this pull that I could do something, or I wanted to keep going, but maybe in a somewhat different way. And then, there was a large group of people around me, my whole environment, who also said, you can't have a child right now. You're just in the middle of building up your career and all sorts of things. And so I aborted that child. I had an abortion. And after that, I fell into a rather dark hole. So out of sheer disgust, and I found myself in what they always called this dark night of the soul. Yeah. And exactly in that moment, when that happened, when this deepest pain and suffering was present again, I first realized that ultimately I felt within me my love for this child was there, but I let myself be so heavily influenced by the entire external situation that's just not how it works, and you simply can't do that. And I was so incredibly insecure then, and ultimately, out of pure fear, I made that decision. And in that very moment, it became so profoundly clear to me that I never ever want that again. I no longer want my life to be dictated or controlled by external things, by any other outside influences. And there was this very clear spark inside me that from now on, I want to trust my intuition and follow the path of my intuition, even though I had no idea how that would work. And yes, I still needed an extreme process of working on my self-worth and courage and everything, because I used to have very low self-esteem. But it was a decision that I made. And that was ultimately the decisive point that I then engaged with the field of intuition, with this area. Yes, what does it truly mean to receive intuitive messages? How do I differentiate that? How can I truly feel that within myself? And what does it mean to follow this path of the heart, of the intuitive heart? And that was ultimately the decisive spark for what I do now as an intuition coach and also as an intuition trainer, or simply to help people discover what they truly, truly desire and no longer allow themselves to be influenced by their external environment. So that's my answer to your question.
So one could roughly summarize, or in this case, distill it to its essence. You have your intuition, which you actually had before, which everyone always possesses, but isn't clearly aware of and doesn't distinctly feel. You had your intuition completely shattered by the death of a living creature. And that impact was so powerful that you then declared, that's enough. I'll never allow that to happen again.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay, but were you on this path when you then decided for yourself, I want to help people to stand by their intuition so that exactly what happened to me doesn't happen to them, even though it was an important lesson that brought you onto your own path? But did you find help, or did you go this path alone then regarding intuition?
So two things. So I then the decision really started so much within me. And I always say this: what is truly essential is to make a decision for yourself that from this moment on, I want to live my truth, my own truth, my intuitive truth. And that really triggered many inner processes within me. Yes, inner processes. How do you say it? Set them in motion or initiated them.
Set off.
And there was a great deal. Yes, precisely. And there was a great deal of personal effort involved. Yes. So it truly required a significant amount of personal effort, because naturally I was, for the first time, operating within this particular domain, in this specific role field defined by various individuals. They had perceived me in a certain manner, and I had consistently behaved in that very way. And it didn't mean that simply because I made that decision at that moment, that from then on I was suddenly enlightened and would always have done everything perfectly. No, but I decided to do it. And then I increasingly felt within myself, okay, what am I truly feeling right now? What am I sensing right now? What is my truth here now? What exactly am I standing for? What is truly mine? When before I often found myself in a position of, being someone who always wants harmony, wanting to please everyone and so on. And that was the crucial point for me to begin inner work. But I also sought external support. So I also did a training as a medium, yes, a mediumistic training, which helped me tremendously, really to delve into the subtle, into the fine nuances, my intuition even more, to activate my entire psychic perception even more, and to perceive the subtle nuances, also, yes, of intuition, yes, because so often everything is just so loud and everything is so much a part of our daily routine, and we've grown so accustomed to simply placing our trust in our mind, which is perpetually so noisy, yes, instead of allowing ourselves to receive those quiet, very subtle pieces of information and messages that come from our intuition. So it was a two-way street. And the first spark, ultimately, the igniting spark, however, was to make that decision.
But that requires a certain amount of strength. Do you believe that every person has the same potential for strength to act and decide in that way?
No. Well, I think we all have different issues and different strengths right now that currently, fundamentally, on a higher level, we all possess God's power. Yes, and we have all of that. But of course, life and all of our circumstances bring us to various points where perhaps our nervous system is so completely overloaded at that very moment that we are simply more likely to. Yes, those who need the experience of feeling held and supported. And in some situations, yes, it can actually be quite comforting when another person makes the choices for us, right? Let's just say someone we can truly trust. So, that's a very, very good question you're asking right now. I find the question right now very, very interesting, because I wouldn't say no, everyone has the same thing. On one level, we all have the same potential for strength, but
Yes, I'm trying to make a specific point here, and that is from my own personal observation. I have already come to understand that fundamentally each and every person arrives as a unique individual, and that with this very individuality, a certain inherent potential naturally always comes along. This in turn is the result of our previous lives, of all the things that we do, every single moment that we live, how we choose to live it, what decisions we make and how we make them, and most importantly, with what intention we do these things. Are we ready for them or are we not yet? Perhaps we still need to go through certain experiences. And the issue of distraction in our modern world is, I truly believe, as profoundly problematic as it has never been before in any other period of human history that is known to us. Because even though our very existence is, of course, important and we absolutely must take care of our daily bread, there's no question about that, simply sitting down and saying, that is not true art. And for me, the real learning and the true shaping of the soul truly occurs when we manage to do both, to maintain that balance, to master life's challenges, and to truly shape our soul. But nowadays, people, in my opinion, are truly under immense pressure, not only from existential fears or issues, let's put it that way, society which deliberately works with fears and thereby pushes energies down again, but above all, with these distractions. That means, I rather see the problem there, that your energy starts to fade and then you lack the strength to stand up and simply say, I'm just going to follow my intuition from now on, you know?
I'm totally with you on that. But you know what I felt, especially now? I told you this before, but especially now in this year, 2025, what I've been feeling is that it's actually the most dangerous thing you can do right now if you don't follow the path of your hearts. Because the universe anyway, or let's say our inner self, yes, it's not the outer, but that the universe, our inner divine essence, guides us to live our truth, and everything untrue ultimately has no permanence anymore. And that's why I always say, even if you might not have the strength or you're caught in certain structures, it will happen one way or another. You will inevitably be led to this path of your truth, what is true for you, and sometimes perhaps in a less pleasant way. So that's why I'm saying, just to be clear, it's a certain kind of situation. Is it purely out of convenience that you're staying there right now? Or is it just this feeling of I can do it myself? Or is it truly that you are currently so deeply entangled in what is, after all, a system that you simply have so little strength available to you right now that you are therefore unable to do it? And that's such a delicate balancing act where I feel where each person must ask themselves, am I consciously in this comfortable zone because it has worked reasonably well up to now, hasn't it? And and it will surely continue to function for a little while longer, won't it? Or I really don't have the energy reserves right now in certain respect, which is also the case in various areas of my life. But there, I say, when you are in this position, you also have, I'm not saying despite that, but you also have the possibilities, at least to make a decision. Yes, at least to make an internal decision. Okay, I want to go the way of my intuition now. I may not be able to let him go, but I want to at least feel him. Yes. I want to open myself up to that. I want to open myself to these intuitive insights. I want to open my heart once more. I want to know what is truly right for me. And I consider this to be one of the most vital points, particularly in these modern times we live in, that we make deliberate, truly conscious choices for ourselves. Don't you agree? That we don't just drift along. Instead, you can then consciously say, okay, I feel this would now be the path of my intuition. It is. And I'm consciously deciding to take the other path again right now, because I just feel that I can't right now, or I'm simply not ready yet at this moment, or I just don't have the strength right now to follow the path of my intuition. I think this is a really crucial point, to rediscover your power as a creator, and not to say, I'll just stay here, not because I lack strength, but because I simply don't know what my true path is. Instead, it's about truly feeling and sensing it and training your intuition so that we can clearly know, okay, this is now the path of my truth. And I feel that I'm currently at a specific point where I am not yet truly ready to proceed with that. And for that reason, I am now deliberately opting for the alternative path instead. I feel that this is the truth or the right way, because then we take back the power and the responsibility, especially for our own path, no matter what it looks like, fully and completely back to ourselves. And we don't say that he or she or that or whoever else is to blame, but I'm choosing this path now because I might just believe right now that this is the best and that's the right thing. And because maybe the state is just there and I just can't right now or something like that. But that implies something like you're to blame. And because of that, I can't. No, okay. But yes, I'm still going to take this path. So the topic of responsibility, I think, is a very crucial point right now.
Absolutely. I believe the path to achieving that goes through a moment of silence, whether it's in the morning, on a plane, or in a car. It truly doesn't matter where you are. But these moments really, hey, it's so incredibly loud out there. So stop, just be completely quiet for a while. And there, precisely in that stillness, you truly begin to listen to your intuition and finally understand it. And then the power will manifest itself one way or another. And when that energy starts to move and the power behind it becomes truly palpable, then everything else it takes shape on its own. What's crucial is this igniting energy, and you can only truly discover that in silence, can't you?
Yes, definitely. No question about it.
That's why, because I know I can already hear people saying, yes, I understand all of that, but how, where's the first step? The first step is this silence, and you can also trust in it. You can generally trust that everything will find its way. And there isn't even a judge among them who would say, it's bad now if you choose this more comfortable or at least seemingly easier path again. There's no right or wrong. You'll feel where it wants to go, and the moment it's ready, you will sense it. If you have a little more quiet, if you listen a little more deeply within yourself, even if, as I said, it's just 1 minute a day, then this energy will come to you anyway, or you'll feel it more clearly. If you don't do that, it will come through something loud outside, something that collapses or, I don't know, deforms or changes, but it will happen. I completely agree with you, for sure. And it can only happen through the energy. This means, regarding the energy system, regarding the truly energetic boost, that you can really achieve something. Wants to change certain things and yet wants to listen to other components, to other elements, besides just the constantly scrolling screens or the radio stations and TV channels that are constantly bombarding you or whatever it may be.
Yes, and many people always equate it with, oh, I have to meditate now, but that's not the point at all. You can simply, when I go for a walk with my dog, I'm calm, I'm quiet, you know. Sometimes I just lie down in my bed, yes, and then I simply do absolutely nothing. This doing nothing is an absolute gift we've forgotten. Not saying by my intention is to meditate now or I must do X, but just lying in bed and doing nothing, not even sleeping. Of course, if you fall asleep, but simply this doing nothing, we've all forgotten it. So my children often come to me and say, oh, Mom, I'm so bored. And I tell them, that's wonderful. You don't have to do anything at all right now, you know, because what exactly is there in this state of doing nothing? In this state of doing nothing, when you, as you say, for just a minute or two, because you simply decide during the day, I'm not doing anything right now, you send out to your field, to the universe, this signal, this impulse, hey, everything is right, everything is correct, everything is perfectly aligned. I am perfectly whole. Everything is going according to plan. Everything is in absolute, in perfect peace. And with that, you feel this field, and that's what you send out. And then on the one hand, it comes back. You are programming your field with it. I often do that when I have such a huge to-do list from top to bottom. Yeah, then I think I'll just do it. And then at some point, I think, God, if there's so much, how will I ever get it all done? Then I just do nothing for 2-3 minutes. And then I go back to that place. And then, as is often the case, it just happens on its own or much faster, much more easily. Yes, because I'm communicating with the universe. Someone calls me up and helps me out, or some issue just suddenly falls away somehow. Yes, so because I'm giving the universe this impulse of everything is right, everything is complete, I'm not under any stress at all. It's simply just there right now. Or I am, yes, you can also.
Just say it. Exactly. That's who I am. How do I feel about what I truly am? What's inside this body? Yes. I think you're one of those, yes, few, but still we're all gathering together now. That's why I founded this community for people who absolutely don't wag their finger, who absolutely don't condescendingly expect anything from you and say, only this is the right way and you mustn't do too much. You mustn't do this, that, or the other, but rather to truly place that responsibility in the hands of each individual soul, each person. What we do and what you, I believe, can beautifully convey without ever talking down to people, yet making it truly accessible, is to genuinely bring that closer to everyone. Yes, how things could indeed be different. For me, it's like you are truly, for me, such a person who possesses a certain quality. Yes, if everyone is already speaking of a new age, you are, for me, one of those individuals who can perfectly master this kind of communication, enabling us to reach these people. Do you know that? One loves listening to you so much. One truly hangs on your every word. What you're saying is so incredibly inspiring and not at all complicated or boring or anything like that. But you are truly present and it really moves you in the end. And that, even if it's just a memory and hey, you are more than just the one who constantly serves some system, but you are the one who is that when you close your eyes and just feel yourself completely in this second, minute, or however long. And if you give it more and more strength and room to grow, then life becomes increasingly beautiful and more fulfilling. No matter if you're standing on a stage or walking down the red carpet, or if you're teaching your classes or whatever else it is that one does, right?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for that. It was my absolute pleasure.
Oh, yes, with pleasure, with pleasure. You know, this now slowly brings me to my to my questionnaire, which I always like to ask at the end. We've gotten to know you a little bit already, and now just a little bit more. Please answer these short prompts for me briefly. I am.
Wonderful.
My personal motto for life is
to be alive.
In every conceivable way, in every single aspect of life, in light and in shadow, and in absolutely everything that truly exists.
Luxury is what I'm about.
a truly wonderful part, that one that every single person also,
to whom every human being is allowed to open up.
My perspective on what getting older means to me is
travel, wisdom, a few wrinkles, beautiful wrinkles, yes. So without judgment, yes, forehead wrinkles. And yes, exciting too. Exciting.
I'm afraid of things. Is there anything else you're afraid of?
Yeah, I'm already quite afraid, of losing those people that I really, really love.
I can definitely relate to that. I believe a lot of you out there can relate as well. Is there anything that you regret?
You'll regret it.
Well, there are certainly things that with the wisdom I possess now, I would undoubtedly do differently. But knowing full well that at that particular time, I simply hadn't yet experienced or lived with the level of consciousness and understanding I have today, I genuinely regret absolutely nothing. No.
It's beautiful. Pause. Yes, that's truly beautiful. Pause. The most touching moment in my life?
It was about year and a half ago when I, here in the bedroom, gave birth to my third daughter completely alone in water. And the entire process of the birth, and then also, as I said, having had a birth here all by myself, completely alone.
Wow, I feel the same way. That's certainly incredibly formative, especially as a woman. My greatest hope is as follows.
That,
A significant number of people, ideally all people, to awaken oneself to the profound reality of that, for this inherent, divine, and utterly complete part that resides deep within your very being.
My biggest concern, what exactly is it?
This must absolutely not happen.
yes, that's exactly how it is.
okay. But talking about it, if you trust, then you shouldn't actually have to worry about that.
Yes.
What is love exactly?
Well, so let me just say this.
Love is truly beautiful. To allow love to enter your life and to simply let yourself just be.
In every conceivable way, in every possible form. And love for me is always a tremendous amount of ecstasy.
Well then, if I could play the part of destiny for an entire day, then what would I do?
That's a very interesting question. If I were to play the part of destiny for a single day, this is what I would do.
I would make it my mission that every single person, the image doubles so that he sees his own reflection as if looking into a mirror, and thereby then comes to a full and complete understanding. Yes, comes to a full and complete understanding.
I would really like to make the acquaintance of people you don't know yet.
I want to get to know you. Well, I have something, but I surely don't want to say it out loud right now. I'd like to, I'm going to make my second choice now. I would very much like to get to know a person from the Himalayan mountains, someone who is in a state of Santi, you see. Yes, I would truly like to meet such an individual.
The most significant opportunity of our time is
that we are at this very moment, restoring this entire place to an absolute paradise, or perhaps we are simply seeing it as paradise and womb,
and be able to bring about peace, or rather, a lasting peace to the entire world.
Very nice hope, a truly beautiful, beautiful impulse, I am.
It's preferable to be able to choose peace. That's how it is.
Well, yes, because both are, you see, present within every human being. They are both an inherent and fundamental aspect of our humanity, both the absence of peace and peace itself.
Mm-hmm.
That it is in balance.
Okay.
But what I'd like to say as my final message to the spine community today is...
You are just such an incredibly wonderful and truly remarkable individual. You are a truly magnificent soul, and within you there resides such an incredible abundance of infinite potentials and unique talents, all waiting to be given to this world. And it doesn't always have to be something grand and monumental, but simply existing within your own unique space. Just the fact that you are alive is an incredible, precious gift, and please never, ever forget that.
Have you ever really paid close attention to Jacqueline? For the past 3/4 of an hour, she has certainly demonstrated to you how a person lives when they are continuously intuitive, connected to themselves, connected to the source, and speaking with their soul.
I certainly hope you all have it. I've definitely got it myself. And if you'd like to reach them, you can of course do so through our app on Spine.
And she's also active on many, many other channels and platforms out there. She has her own YouTube channel, but you can easily find that out for yourselves. I want to thank you so, so very much, dear Jacqueline, for this incredibly beautiful, inspiring talk. I'm taking a tremendous amount away from this. I hope you all are too. And I'm so very grateful for who you are and that you shared your precious time with us today, your wonderful insights, your love, your big heart, and your light. And you can be absolutely certain of one thing. You're already making a huge difference. Thank you.
And I would like to remind you to join our community Spine. We are a community that wants to help you live a healthier life, practice your spirituality, and expand your consciousness. We help you find and connect with healers around the world, and we help you give your life a new meaning in different ways. We are Spine, connections that help.